even with all their awards, all of their accolades, all of their grandeur, all of their notoriety,
Sure.
they're still learning.
Mm.
Every day they are opening their mind up to learn something new. And here's the kicker. They don't care who they learn it from.
Grit isn't something you're born with. It's something you choose and that you build every single day. Welcome to The Grit Factor, the podcast where we explore how to lead with courage, clarity, and purpose, even in the hardest moments. I'm Shannon Huffman Polson, one of the first women to fly the Apache helicopter in the United States Army, author of The Grit Factor, leadership instructor, and keynote speaker. I teach emerging and seasoned leaders how to navigate challenge, make intentional decisions, and align daily action with purpose. On this show, you're going to hear stories and insights from executives, creators, scholars, veterans, nonprofit leaders, and everyday leaders who have faced adversity and turned it into growth, impact, and resilience. And here's my promise to you. Every episode will give you something actionable, a mindset shift, a reflection, a tool, or a story that you can apply immediately to your leadership and your life. Today's guest is someone whose work has shaped how the world understands high performance, and someone I recently had the privilege of working alongside in a powerful gathering of Ukrainian women leaders. Dr. Ruth Gotian is the Chief Learning Officer and Assistant Professor of Education in Anesthesiology at Weill Cornell Medicine. She's widely recognized as one of the top global experts on mentorship, leadership development, and high-performance habits. Her groundbreaking book, The Success Factor, reveals what astronauts, Olympic athletes, Nobel laureates, and other elite performers have in common, and how those habits can be learned. She's also the co-author of the Financial Times Guide to Mentoring, a comprehensive and research-backed guide to building effective mentorship relationships. In addition, she continues to publish widely on leadership, motivation, and excellence across academic and professional environments. When we worked together on the Ukrainian Women Leaders panel, what stood out to me wasn't just her expertise. It was her empathy, her curiosity, and her unwavering commitment to empowering people under extraordinary pressure. Today, Ruth joins us to share the science and practice of high performance, the power of mentorship, and what leaders can learn from the world's top achievers about purpose and more. You're in for a deeply inspiring conversation with Dr. Ruth Gotian. Let's take off. Thank you so much for your patience and for being here.
Of course.
Great to see you. Um,
Likewise.
all right, I'm just going to jump right in, Ruth. You have studied unbelievable examples of success from Nobel laureates and astronauts and Olympic champions. It's really a phenomenal range of specialties and industries. When you look across all of these fields, what do you see stand out as the core principles of the success factor?
Well, what's surprising is that there's actually four of them. And that's really what I talk about in the book, The Success Factor. There are four elements of success. You have to do all four at the same time. But I will tell you the one that surprised me the most. And it
Yes.
still does all these years later. And it's still reinforced every time I interview an extreme high achiever. Even with all their awards, all of their accolades, all of their grandeur, all of their notoriety,
Sure.
they're still learning.
Mm.
Every day they are opening their mind up to learn something new. And here's the kicker. They don't care who they learn it from. They could be an NBA champion or a Nobel Prize winner. If the person who knows what's best is 15 or 18 or a college graduate or a new associate, they will learn from that person. They're not necessarily looking for the world expert. They're looking for the expert in the room that they have access to. And that's mind blowing because all of us spend time churning our wheels, think we have to find the world expert, or we need to spend 100 hours Googling or going on ChatGPT to figure out an answer. No, there might be someone right next to you who could help build that path.
I love that so much. That is not at all the direction I'm guessing most people thought we would start, but it's absolutely fabulous and so important that we talk about that in this time where there are so many self-declared experts in so many different
That's
ways,
right.
right? All you have to do is get on YouTube or get on Instagram, and suddenly you're an expert in whatever it is that you're claiming to be. So I love that
But
idea.
I want to interrupt you on that
Yeah.
because that is what's so fascinating. Because every time I would reach out to someone and say, you came up on my list as a high achiever because of blah, blah, blah. And they would say to me, but I'm not a high achiever. They
Ah,
don't see themselves as that. That's
yes,
fascinating. And I'm like, you won the Nobel Prize. If you're not
right.
a high achiever, what does that say about the rest of us?
Well, what does it actually say? So this is something that I think is so interesting. What does it say about, and I think this is a great thing to interrogate, what does it say about success? Like, what does success mean? And I think that's something that we could probably define for hours and hours and hours, but I do feel like there is this call to redefine success in some different ways, especially in this era where many people are pushing themselves maybe even too hard, maybe unhealthily hard. What does success mean? And how do these people that have made it into the success factor in your studies, how have they seen their definition of success change over the course of their careers?
Well, it's so fascinating because it's one of those things you know it when you see it, but you can't necessarily define it. And when I lead workshops for people, the first activity I give them is let's define success.
Ah, great.
And I have to tell you, every single time, every single person has a different definition of success. So
Mm,
your definition is going to be very different than mine. And I think one of the faults that we have is that we're measuring success based on something uniform when we each have a different definition of success. So I can tell you what my definition is because I've actually researched this to figure out with the high achievers, what is the definition of success? So I know who can make it to this list.
okay.
My definition is you have created a paradigm shift in the way we do things, think about things, or process things. We are different today because of something that you've done. You have left your mark.
Mm,
As you are rising up through the ranks, you are pulling other people up with you. And third, when you reach the peak, you pay it forward. You are mentoring others either in a one-to-one or a one-to-many model. Now, notice I never said anything about awards. I never said anything about money. I never said anything about notoriety.
yes, yes. I think that's really important because that is where we see the external measures of success,
That's
right? Or
right.
the external accolades or the external expectations. Do you see that in the people, and maybe in your own life as well, that the people that you've studied start to define success in one way and then start to see that evolve over the course of the time that they're doing their work?
Absolutely. And I think one of the key points is that they're never worried about some goal out in the future.
Yeah.
They are so hyper focused on the next goal. The goal when they started was
Yeah.
not to win the NBA championship, was not to win the Nobel Prize. It was to win this game. It was to have a good workout. It was to win this playoff game, this championship game. So they're always focused on the next goal. There is always more to improve. There's always more to do. There is always something new to achieve. If
Right.
you start out by saying, I want to win the number one prize in my field,
Yes.
you're likely going to fail. Because
Mhm.
where do you start with that?
Right. Exactly.
Right? But if you start small and build on that and build on that and build on that consistently and constantly do your best and constantly try to get better, you will achieve that goal in record time.
Wow. That's great. That reminds me of Tom Peters that excellence is the next 5 minutes, right?
That's right. That's
Comes up
right.
again and again in so many different ways. How are the people that achieve these really external measures of success, but also their internal understanding of success? How are they different from the rest of us? How are they different from the average? And what makes them keep going once they've achieved that next 5 minute goal and then that next 5 minute goal?
Well, I think what's different is that they're not worried about what other people think. They're
Right,
worried about achieving their next goal. They are hyper focused on it and they surround themselves with people who can help them achieve that goal. And they cut out the noise. They totally cut out the noise.
right.
I can't tell you how many Olympians I have spoken to who shut off social media the week leading up to the Olympics, the week leading up to their competition. They didn't want any distractions whatsoever. It's pretty
Interesting.
incredible.
That is incredible. That is incredible. And if I recall, one of the things that you've talked a lot about mindset relative to success, right?
Correct,
And that you have to
correct.
have the right mindset to be able to move towards, again, whether it's an internal goal or whether it's something that might be externally understood as success. What does this mindset look like?
So that's part of the four mindsets. And I think too often we try to copy the habits of the high achievers. Wake
Yes,
up at 5 a.m., make your bed before you do anything else, read for 5 hours a day. Well, you can't do that because your life is not like the life of the other person who's reading 5 hours a day or waking up at 5 a.m. It's not about copying the habits, it's about emulating their mindset. So, for example, it's not the waking up at 5 a.m. that's so important.
sure.
What's important is those people just might be morning people. If you're a night owl, you go to bed at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, you're not going to wake up at 5 a.m. and be functional. Just not going to happen.
Right.
But what you can emulate, and this is what the high achievers do, is that they carve out time during their peak performance hours to do peak performance work. So, for example, I am a morning person. I do wake up early in the morning, which means my morning time is saved. It's
Yes.
it's religiously saved
Yes.
for the work that takes the most focus. For me, that's writing, that's editing. I do not spend my mornings on Zoom. I do not spend my mornings looking through emails. I do not spend my mornings going on social media. Those are more passive tasks that for me don't take the same brain power. So
Sure.
I'd rather leave that to the afternoon when I'm a little bit more sluggish.
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
if you are the night owl, you're just going to switch that. You are going to keep your nighttime when the rest of us want to go to bed. But if that's your peak performance hours, you're going to do your peak performance work during those times. So understanding that about your own rhythms is going to help you. And for the reading, I'll break another myth. For those who like to read, 3 to 8 hours a day, we heard that's what makes people billionaires.
Yeah, eight
And
hours. Who does that? Nobody does that.
well, Mark Cuban
Oh,
and
all
Warren
right.
Buffett, right? Fair enough. But that's not what made them billionaires. And
Right.
look, as an author like you, I love
Yes,
the fact that they're reading, but
absolutely.
if you have young kids, it's just not going to happen, right? You have to get them off to school, you have to get them home, you have to help with homework, you have to get dinner, you have to put them to bed. Who even has the energy to read for an hour a day, let alone 3 or 5 or 8? But
Right.
what they are doing is they are taking in new knowledge,
Yes.
new information about totally different ideas and avenues. And what they're then doing is they start to make connections
Yes.
between two ideas that other people don't yet see.
Yes.
That
Love that.
is the innovation. That is what made them billionaires. So it's not about reading for the 5, 8 hours a day. It's
Yeah.
about opening your mind up to new knowledge.
Yeah.
Now, yes, as an author like you, we want people to read our books,
Yes, we do.
but there are also ways that you can get knowledge in other ways. You can read articles, you can watch TED Talks, you can listen on Audible, you can listen to podcasts such as this one. Hopefully, people are learning something new. You can talk to people, and this is where mentorship plays such a big role. There's
Yes.
so many ways to open your mind up to new knowledge. So it's not about the habits. It
Yes.
is the mindset and figuring out how you can fit that mindset
Mm.
into your life.
I love
That's the
how you're focusing on that because I think one of the things that can become paralyzing is thinking that you have to do this set of things, which again is likely externally understood or externally imposed. And being aware of yourself is such important and critical work, and work that many leaders, I think, don't give themselves the time and the opportunity and the space to really do. And that's got to be
fair.
the foundation of, I think of it as foundation of grit and resilience. You're seeing it as the foundation of success, and that deep internal work to know what it is that you need to do based on who you are versus who somebody else is. That just
That's right.
is a critical takeaway. So critical.
S-
And so
So
easy to
true.
let go, right? When things get busy, is this idea that we need to learn all the time, but suddenly we've got to make our numbers by the end of the quarter, or suddenly we have a big race coming up or something else coming up, and we let that learning go. So if you're looking for a little more clarity or resilience in your life right now, I've created 2 free resources to help. First, start out by downloading the Grit Manifesto, some core principles for leading with courage to inspire you every day at thegritinstitute.com/manifesto/. Or jump into the free mini course, The Grit Blueprint, at thegritinstitute.com/grit/. Both will help you take the next right step towards leading with purpose and your grit factor. The link is in the show notes. How would you say that the people that you've studied or that you've seen in your own life, people continue to make that a priority even when other things start to stack up? Because that's where I think things get really hard for folks.
Yeah, and I got to tell you that the rest time is as important as the work time. And this is just yesterday, I took a workaholic assessment and I came through with flying colors as a
I bet you
workaholic.
did, Ruth. I bet.
Not, not good, but I will tell you, and I'm not proud of this, but I will tell you, um, I had a 2 week window a little over a year ago
Yeah.
where I had a Nobel Prize winner, a two-time NBA champion, and a two-time Olympic medalist. Each one separately reached out to me
Hmm.
and they said, Ruth, you need to stop.
Interesting.
You are overdoing it. You're going to crash and burn. You need to pause.
Mm,
All three saw it when I didn't see it in myself. Now, I am not the kind of person who can take 2 weeks off and do nothing. It's just not in my DNA. But I
right.
was able to take 4 days off, and
Yeah.
that 4 days off was the reboot I needed.
Mm.
Now, did I bring my Kindle with me and read nonstop by the beach? I absolutely did. And I loved it.
It's
But that was the reboot that I needed. And sometimes we need other people to hold that mirror up for us because we don't see it in ourselves, because there's always more to do.
Well, that brings up a really important point, and I know this is your most recent work and a lot of work that you've done for the entirety of your career. But your most recent book is looking at mentoring, and you've brought this up a couple of times in our earlier conversation. Is the importance of building that team that supports your work, being part of other people's teams as they support the work.
Yeah.
This was clear in the Grit Factor as well, that we really don't and aren't intended to do this alone. But this is I find this personally a really difficult thing to do. And I'd love to
Yeah.
hear your thoughts on how that's worked for others and how a leader who's feeling like they're really working alone or working in a silo, or I mean, it is a lonely job in any kind of a
Yeah.
leadership position or a high achievement position. How do they build that team? And then how do they look for that opportunity to pass it forward?
Yeah. In fact, I just wrote a piece a few months ago for Fast Company on why even CEOs need mentors.
Yes.
Because the further you go up, it's like a pyramid. There are
Yeah.
fewer and fewer people you can talk to. And very often they shield you from the truth. They tell you what they think you want to hear.
Right.
And it's not exactly a safe environment for you to share your thoughts if you're worried, if you're nervous, etc. Which is why this is where it's so helpful to have a mentor, have an executive coach, have peer mentors who have the same role in other organizations so that you can brainstorm together. That is so critical. And ask each other, my favorite mentoring question, what's keeping you up at night?
Mm, yeah,
Because that question will tell you what they're working on.
sure.
They'll tell you what they're worried about. They'll tell you what they're excited about.
Right. For sure.
And that is so helpful. So having someone, a safe person that you can talk to outside of the organization is so helpful. I think a mentor who's doing similar work outside is great. And then hiring an executive coach, every leader should have an executive coach who is that safe sounding board for them, who can also call them out when they're doing something that they shouldn't be doing or working too hard, or why are you sending all those emails from vacation? So I think that that is something that's so helpful, and all the leaders need that.
And how do they find that? How does a leader find that when she's feeling like she's doing it alone and she's having to go it alone?
How do they find a mentor?
Yeah, how
Well,
do they?
they're usually part of communities of practice. And I think communities of practice are people who do what you do, and you have a way of communicating with each other, of getting together. Look, they have these organizations and associations. Go to those associations, find the one or two people that you connect with,
Sure.
start to talk to them. And there's always a few people that you just gel with. Remember when the two of us met? It was
Yeah.
like we've known each other our entire life, or we just met. You
Yes.
always find people like that. So start with that and start with the safe conversation. Don't ask for anything. Just have that organic conversation that just flows. When
Yeah.
it comes to executive coaches, there's a few of us in the world who really work with the top leaders, and there's several organizations where you can find who those people are. They
Yeah.
reach out to me.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
I can't help them, I could put them in touch with someone who can.
Sure. That's great. I love that you're bringing that up because there does need to be a personal connection, right? And what I have heard about mentorship programs that don't work is when people connect two people because maybe they're both women, for example, right? And they have
Correct.
nothing in common at all. And one of the things that I remember this wonderful story of Marsh Carter that is a mentor to many military veterans and actually military leaders as well, and has worked at MIT for a number of years. And he was connected to this woman who was a general in the Air Force. At the time, she was not a general, and they both liked to fly, right? But she had been connected with another woman that she had nothing in common with. And she's like, it just
Yeah.
wasn't working. But then suddenly she and March were able to work together because they both loved to fly and they both loved aviation, and that gave them that common connection, which is really important to remind people that you got to find that, right?
And you brought up a really, really good point. So nearly every Fortune 500 company has a mentoring program.
Yes.
But if you go in as, and I have, and
Yeah.
ask people, so tell me about the mentoring program, tell me about the best parts. And they're like, we have a mentoring program? Because usually what happens is that they match people up in the most random ways, right? You're both from New York, you both are women, but not all New Yorkers are the same. I know that's shocking, and not all women are the same, also shocking, and not people who went to the same school or from the same hometown are the same.
Yes.
But I will tell you where that is helpful.
Yeah.
It's helpful in two ways. One, it's a start.
Yeah. Sure.
It's something.
It's something.
And this is especially helpful for people who culturally don't know to ask for help or
Yes.
to get guidance. There are some that have been brought up culturally where asking for help is a sign of weakness.
Yeah.
So when you have that built-in mentor where you're
Yep.
supposed to meet with them and supposed to ask questions, it becomes the default.
Sure.
So it is great because how often have we heard the stories of the men who went to play golf and the women couldn't come, wouldn't come, weren't invited, whatever it is, and then the men got promoted, but they knew that was their social capital,
Yeah.
right?
That's right.
It's not that they were better, the leaders just knew them better.
Yeah.
So this really helps get rid of that divide when there is someone. The other way that it's helpful is that if there's an exit ramp.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if it's not working out,
Right.
there needs to be some sort of exit ramp, and whoever is organizing that mentoring program can really help with that. So it is a start. The
Yeah.
problem is that nobody advises, nobody trains the mentors on how to be good mentors, the
Yes.
mentees on how to be good mentees. So what happens is people are doing it from their own experiences, and
Yeah.
they'll do either exactly the same or the exact opposite based on the experiences that they had. But
Sure.
there are people like me who actually study this.
Yeah.
What
Right.
what makes a good mentor? What makes a good mentee? What's working? What's a more contemporary approach? And
Right.
we have books and articles and podcasts and all of this that people can watch. And we also come in and we do the training to teach people how to do it well. So there is a science, there is a method to the madness.
Well, we will definitely refer people to the books and the articles that you do have available in all of
Mhm.
the show notes as well, because those are going to be really important for anyone who either wants to be mentored or to be a mentor. And perhaps that's something that all of us should aspire to both of, right?
Absolutely. And there's also LinkedIn Learning courses that I've
Yes.
created on it as well, because I believe that adults, I don't just believe, I know,
Yes.
we take in and process information differently. And
Absolutely.
you may like to read, and someone else might prefer a podcast, and someone else might prefer to watch the video on the LinkedIn Learning course.
Exactly.
So I try to create it on as many mediums as possible. So
Yeah.
no matter what way you like to learn best or whatever your time frame or bandwidth, there
Yes.
is something there for you. So you will not be without the information if you want to get it.
That's so good. That's so good. And it's a good reminder as well that whether it's learning from a formal program or from the expert in the room, as the people in the Success Factor have shown that they do, and they're constantly learning, that we do need to not just learn it once, right? We take it in different ways because we prefer that, but also because that will help to really anchor that in our minds and in our own practice as well. So I'm so grateful that you mentioned that. Coming back to the idea of the Success Factor, one of the things I'm recalling is that you mentioned that the people who met this criteria to be interviewed
Mhm.
for your book
Yeah,
were more afraid of not doing something than they were afraid of
yeah,
failure. Talk about
that's
that a
right.
little bit, because that's the fear of failure is a big thing for most people. And so how do these people get beyond that or disregard that in order to continue to try and continue to try and to push themselves? I think that's something that a lot of people could learn from.
Absolutely. And in fact, whenever I sign copies of the book, The Success Factor, that's the quote I put in. Fear
Uh-huh.
not trying more than you fear failing.
Yeah.
Because that came up over and over and over again. And in fact, it was someone who's now a colonel in the military, in the US Army, who said to me when I was humming and hawing over something. We went to grad school at Columbia together, and I was humming and hawing about making a decision. And he said to me, nobody died. He
Right?
said, that is the only decision that's not reversible.
Yes,
Everything else can be fixed.
that's exactly right.
And for someone who lives in a world of gray, seeing it that way in such black and white
Yes.
was eye-opening. And
Yes.
that really explained to me why you have to fear not trying more than you fear failing.
Yes.
Because what's the worst that'll happen? If nobody dies, it's fixable.
That's right. Yes.
Everything else you can try. Now, if you don't try,
Yeah,
you may never succeed.
that's right.
And you are rejecting yourself before anyone else has a chance to. And trust me, there are enough people in the world who want to reject you. You do not need to do it for them.
Absolutely. Yeah. Do you think that that is something that people can reprogram themselves to understand? Because I think a lot of people get stuck at that fear of failure.
Absolutely. And success can be learned. I think
Yeah.
the only problem is we're never taught in school
Mm,
or at work how to
yeah.
succeed. I
Right.
spent a long time, many years in school. There has not been a single class on how to succeed, not one.
Right. Or how to maybe define success for yourself. Yes.
That's right.
Which is
That's right.
a pretty critical piece. I keep coming back to this. I have two kids who are teenagers, and they are getting all of these messages about what success looks like, and a lot of them are
Yeah.
not particularly healthy, honestly. What would you say to young people and young people entering the workforce who are bombarded with these external messages of what success is supposed to look like, and to help them to help encourage them to go back to a place of, I'd like to say, values, really, but
Yeah.
the inside of themselves and to what matters to them and how they are meant to show up in the world.
That's actually something that I do with people. I take them through what's called a passion audit to
Mm,
figure out what it is they truly love, not what other people tell them they should, but
sure.
what they truly love. And there's a difference between being good at something and enjoying it. You could be
Absolutely.
good at many things and not enjoy it.
Yes. Yes, it's interesting. In the Grit Factor, I remember I interviewed somebody who was at the top of her field, and she said, "You know what? I don't love this." I mean, and I mean,
Yeah.
and like you have done too, right? Like world champion. And she said, "No, I don't love this." And I was like, "Gosh, that's tragic almost
Yeah.
for the amount of
Yeah.
time that goes into performing at that level to not love it."
Yeah. So you have to love it. And you know what? What you love at 40 may not be what you loved at 20.
Exactly.
Or
Yes.
vice versa. So our
Yes.
passions change over time, which is why our definition of success can change over time. And
Right.
we know that these things, especially our passions, change whenever we've had a change in our life. So, for example, a new job, a new school, a new partner, a new home, a child, the
Yeah.
pandemic. That's why so many people were quitting their jobs. They
Yeah.
reprioritized what's important. So doing that passion audit is so critical. And if your listeners want to do it, there's one on my website that they can download. It's Ruth Gotian, Ruthgot, like Tom, IAN like Nancy,
Yes.
ruthgotian.com/passion audit.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, I'm going to take that myself after we get off this call. I love that. And I hope every listener will as well. And as we come to this kind of idea of passion, and this is not the same question now, I know, but it is related. One of the through lines that I've seen in the grit factor, and one of the pieces that seems to be so important and has come out of a lot of recent research as well, is the importance of connecting to purpose. And
Mm,
purpose, not necessarily solely as an individual purpose. And you sort of defined this early on in your own definition of success and paying it
yeah,
forward, but a purpose that is connected to something bigger than yourself, ideally in a healthy way, in a way that makes the world a better place.
yeah,
Contributing your best self for a better world is how I like to think of it. How do you see purpose show up as a part of the success factor?
yeah. Well, two ways actually.
Yeah.
The first one, Steve Kerr, who's the coach of the Golden State Warriors, 9-time NBA champion. I interviewed him for the Success Factor, and I was so moved by his answer
Mm,
that I asked him to write the foreword to the following book, The Financial Times Guide to Mentoring, which he did.
wonderful.
Steve Kerr is anchored, unwaveringly anchored, is that a word? uh, in his values.
Yeah.
He is crystal clear on what they are,
Yes.
and he will not waver from them.
Mm,
And all of his work, all of his coaching work is anchored in those values.
mm,
And this, he said, the second it slips and goes away from the values, I don't like it anymore. I'm not doing my best work. The team is not doing the best work. And he's shared what his values are
sure.
with his team. So everyone's on board. Everyone knows why he's doing it. So knowing what your values are is
Yes.
critical.
Yes.
And my friend Aisha Bursell has a great exercise. It's called the Heroes Exercise to
Mm,
figure out what your values are. Because we all say honesty, integrity, hard work, that's all true.
yeah.
But what is it really? And she says, look at who your heroes are.
I love that.
Identify who your heroes are. What about them makes them your heroes?
Yes.
Write out those traits. Those are your values. Because very often that's what you try to emulate because that's what's so important to you, because that's why they're your heroes. So,
Yes.
for example, I have always written my grandmother, different generation, a foot shorter than me. She was a pharmacist. I clearly am not. But what did I love about her is because the word no was not in her vocabulary
Oh,
and that
interesting.
she wouldn't let anyone push her around. And she broke more glass ceilings than anyone I know, not because she tried to break them, was because the word no was not something that she was willing to accept.
Mm, yes.
And to me, I guess that's who I am, right? I went back to school at 43. I wrote books,
Yes.
when I was 50 because the it didn't make sense for me to do it that way, but
Mm,
clearly those are the values. I guess it's in my DNA. So that's number one. Number two, my mentor, when I went back to school, he said something very important to me, 6 words that have changed my life.
yes.
And one of the high achievers who I've interviewed said the same thing. He said, do something important, not just interesting.
Yes. Love.
Because when you do something that's important, it creates a ripple effect, and you will be able to have an impact on hundreds or thousands or millions of people that you will never have the opportunity to meet. Do
Yes.
something important, not just interesting.
Wonderful. I'm so grateful that you shared that. I remember when we talked about that when we first met, and it does go to this idea that purpose is bigger than ourselves, right? Our
Yeah.
purpose, I think our purpose as living our values. It's an active work that is living our
Yeah.
values into the world to make the world a better place. And I think that's is such an incredible way to put it. What prompted you? I know we just have a couple of minutes here left, but what prompted you to go back to school? Tell us a little bit about that journey and how that reflects your values put into action and how you see yourself then living that purpose into the world.
Yeah, why I go back to school at 43 while working full time and having a husband and three young kids? Because it makes no sense. uh, this was a dream I've had since I was 20.
Yeah.
And there, I kept seeing, I was really obsessed with success, and I kept thinking that everyone kept looking at attrition and why people are leaving.
Yeah.
And I was convinced that we were looking at the wrong end of this puzzle.
Yeah.
Instead of looking at those who are leaving, why aren't we looking at those who are staying? Why aren't we looking at those who are really succeeding? And
Interesting.
nobody was looking at it. Everyone was looking at those who are leaving. How can we get them to stay? And I realized that those who stay and succeed are 400% more productive than the average employee. So again, why are we not looking at those people?
Right.
And when you go back to school, you learn how to study differently and you master time management.
Yeah.
And it's all about, if you have a goal, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to talk about it or are you going to do it?
Yes.
So I
Yes.
did it.
That's fabulous. I think that's fantastic. And how do you see that now as your purpose in the world? And I don't know if you
It,
define
it
it that way, but
Yeah, so
yeah.
I think this work will outlive me because there are always more people who I can interview, and I'm thankful for everyone who introduces me because most of the people have been through introductions. That's how I met them.
Sure.
And the work will outlive me. There will always be new stories, and I'm really fascinated because every book I pull on a different thread from the success factor. So the success factor is the foundational book. The Financial Times Guide to Mentoring is one piece of that fourth element of success.
Mhm.
Then, because I also have a day job, I'm on the faculty and a chief learning officer at Weill Cornell Medicine. So
Of course.
this winter I have a book on mentoring in healthcare coming out. And now I am shopping around the proposal for the next book.
Yes.
So
Yes.
all of these are threads from that foundational work in the success factor.
But I see you then as really saying that you want to make a difference, a positive difference in this space that is so fascinating to you.
Absolutely. There's a Jewish proverb that says, and I may be getting the exact words incorrect, but basically, look, our world is crazy.
It is.
We don't have to fix the entire world. That's not our responsibility,
Yes.
nor are we exempt from doing our part.
Mm, perfect.
Everyone's got their own unique skill set and talent. And if each person just focused on what they can do to make the world a better place,
Yes.
it will be. It
Yes.
will be.
I love
So this is my skill set. This is my talent.
it.
And
Yeah.
I get the bonus of I love doing it.
It's the best.
So this is the way I can leave this world better than I found it.
Wonderful. Well, there's so many other directions I would like to go. I know that we have a limited time today, and I'm so grateful that you would share your wisdom in these just a few of the components of the success factor. Other people will need to pick up the book for sure to understand the rest of it, both in terms of the success factor itself, the myths that you dismantle, the mindset that goes into it, really critical understanding. And what I love about what you've just shared is the importance of the continued learning, that all of us can continue to learn and to grow. And in fact, that's maybe the most important piece of our own success as we define it and as we contribute to the world.
Absolutely. Success can be learned.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Ruth. I so appreciate your time, your energy, and your work in the world. It certainly is a success.
Thank you.
I always walk away inspired after a conversation with Dr. Ruth Gotian, and I hope that you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. You can take it further and find her books, The Success Factor and The Financial Times Guide to Mentoring, at my bookshop link. That's bookshop.org/SH Polson, or SHPOLSON. If you enjoyed this episode, I hope you'll subscribe, Leave a review and share it with someone else who could use these insights. And be sure to continue to follow Ruth at LinkedIn.com as well as at RuthGotian.com. For now, here's to your grit factor. I'll see you next time. Thanks for joining me today on The Grit Factor. I hope this conversation sparked new ideas, insights, or courage to take the next right step in your leadership and your life. If you want to go deeper, you can join my newsletter community at facingthewind.substack.com and find free tools at thegritinstitute.com like the Grit Manifesto and the Grit Blueprint, my mini course to help you build resilience, clarity, and purpose step by step. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who could use a boost of grit in their life or work. Remember that grit is a choice, purpose is a practice, and every challenge is an opportunity to grow. Until next time.